In the dark and gloomy forest, where even the sun's rays barely penetrated through the dense foliage, stood an abandoned house. This house, like everything surrounding it, seemed frozen in time, a relic of the past forgotten amidst the thicket. One day, a group of teenagers, purely out of curiosity and a desire to ensure safety, decided to close down this abandoned house. Among them were Jake, brave and fearless; Emma, a girl with a bright mind and a keen intuition; Tyler, who always sought to be the center of attention; and Sarah, dreamy and somewhat shy. They gathered at the entrance to the house, against the backdrop of howling wind and an eerie whistle, and boldly set out on their own. The floor was covered with a layer of dust, the walls were covered with peeling wallpaper, and the furniture was coated with patina. But that was not the scariest part. As they explored the rooms, they began to notice strange sounds: creaking boards, as if someone was walking on the floor, and whispers coming from dark corners. The teenagers decided it was just their imagination and continued their journey through the house. They entered the basement, where the door slammed shut behind them. It became dark around them. They couldn't see anything except for the dim light from Jake's flashlight. Suddenly, they felt shadows moving around them, and as if something cold was touching their necks. In horror, the teenagers tried to escape from the basement, but the door turned out to be locked. They heard footsteps, resembling theirs, and screams of terror filled the basement space. But then suddenly the light flashed, and they found that there was no one around them. Their hearts pounded as they finally emerged from the basement. Fleeing from the house, they realized that their adventure was too close to a real nightmare. They vowed never to return here. But something inside them compelled them to return to this house again and again, as if something magnetic pulled them back to its dark corridors and mysterious secrets. Despite their vow to leave the abandoned house in the past, the teenagers couldn't contain their curiosity. Several weeks after their first visit, they gathered again at the entrance to the house. Inside, they found that despite their fears, they were drawn back to the dark corridors and hidden corners of the house. They ventured to explore the premises again, but this time it seemed even more sinister to them. The walls seemed to slowly close in around them, and the sounds that had previously seemed like figments of their imagination now sounded more real and ominous. Holding hands, they wandered through the dark corridors, feeling the chill that seemed to emanate from the house itself. Suddenly they heard whispers weaving through the air around them, as if beckoning them deeper into the darkness. Suddenly a strange light flickered in the darkness, and they saw ghostly figures dancing through the rooms and heard phantom whispers filling their minds. In horror, the teenagers tried to flee but found themselves trapped inside the house. When all seemed lost, Emma suddenly remembered an old table in the main room, on which lay an ancient scroll with a spell that, she guessed, could free them from this nightmare. Boldly deciding, they made their way to the table, hoping that the scroll would help them escape this cursed place. The forces of evil, enveloping the house, tried to thwart them, but through their joint efforts and belief in their abilities, the teenagers managed to recite the spell. Suddenly the room was bathed in bright light, and they found themselves outside, once again in the dark and gloomy forest. They fled from the house, promising never to return. But even after this adventure, in the hearts of the teenagers remained the feeling that the magnetic attraction of this place was far from gone. The teenagers couldn't forget the horrifying events that took place in the abandoned house. They continued to experience nightmares and feel as though something unseen was haunting them. Despite all efforts to forget the past trials, they still harbored a desire to unravel the secrets of the house and free themselves from its dark influence. One day, as they gathered again to discuss their experiences and try to find answers, Emma recalled an old legend told to her by her grandmother. The legend spoke of an ancient artifact capable of shattering the sinister force pervading the house. Boldly deciding to embark on a quest for this artifact, the teenagers forged their way through the forest, heading towards the place where they believed its ancient resting place lay. With each step, they felt as if an unknown force tried to hold them back, but their resolve remained strong. Eventually, they reached their destination and found the resting place of the artifact. Retrieving it from its slumber, they were able to harness its power to shatter the darkness enveloping the abandoned house. Bathed in a bright light, the artifact unleashed a powerful spell that freed the house from its sinister influence. Saved from the nightmare, the teenagers realized that only together and believing in themselves could they overcome fears and dark forces. Returning to the town, they pledged to maintain their friendship and remember the lessons learned in this mystical adventure.